Let's start off this bulletin with the big story that we're tracking. Few hours from now, a major deal will be signed in Doha. Representatives from America and the Taliban will sign an agreement which is being sold as a peace deal. And apparently the goal of these peace talks is supposed to be some form of power-sharing agreement between the politicians and the Taliban. Representatives from 26 countries will participate in today's event. Qatar has also asked India to send a representative, and New Delhi has accepted the invitation. We are now joined by our Pakistan Bureau Chief, Anas Malik, for more on this live from Doha. Anas, so give us a sense of the situation on ground as we are just a few hours away from these peace talks.
Well, absolutely, Priyanka. The stage is all set for the Afghan peace deal. We're seeing that the police has taken, the Qatari police there has literally taken over this hotel. We've been stopped at least 500 meters from the hotel, and then they were asked, after thorough checking, then you're asked to walk until the hotel. The signing is to take place at the convention center. That is the biggest facility of this very hotel. We see that U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo would be attending, and among them would be the Pakistani Foreign Minister, Uzbek Foreign Minister, Kazakh Foreign Minister, Tajik Foreign Minister, the Turkish Foreign Minister, Indonesian Foreign Minister. Alongside that, we see Zamir Kabulov. I just saw Zamir Kabulov inside having breakfast because it's roughly 8:30 on the dial here in Qatar. The Chinese side had committed that it would be sending its special representative, but then it has excused amidst the fear of coronavirus, and now China will be represented by its ambassador with an apology and an excuse as well. We see I saw the German special representative for Afghanistan. He is also there. The Japanese special envoy for Afghanistan is also there. We're expecting the EU, the European Union, the special envoy for Afghanistan to be there as well. Now, to those who are being represented at ambassador levels, they include India, Iran, Norway, and we also expect representation from OIC, NATO, and UNAMA. So that is the whole guest list as what I'm telling you about. It is very, very brief. It is very, very elaborate. The signing ceremony was earlier scheduled to begin around 2 p.m. Doha time, but now it is said that officially we've been conveyed that it will begin somewhere between 3:30 to 4 p.m. Doha time. Having said that, what sources within the Taliban say that it has been delayed upon the request of the Taliban, primarily because US and Afghanistan are to sign a bilateral security cooperation agreement today, is to be renewed today, and Mark Esper, the Secretary of Defense, is to be in Kabul. So there, all eyes would be there as to how things pan out over there. But again, this stage is all set in Doha. The stage is all set, and they're looking at the prospects of peace. In fact, there are special passes that have been issued like these, which says agreement to bringing peace in Afghanistan. It has your picture and a name, and then your designation, whether you're from the media, you're a delegate, or you're a dignitary. It has that, so everybody is asked to wear that, and the stage here in Doha is all set for the agreement to bringing peace in Afghanistan. Yes,
right, Anas, thank you for those insights. We'd like to remind our viewers that we will be bringing you live updates from Doha as the peace talks unfold. Now, ahead of the US-Taliban peace pact, Indian Foreign Secretary Harshvardhan Shringla is on a day-long visit to Kabul. Shringla called on President Ashraf Ghani and handed over a congratulatory letter from Prime Minister Modi. Shringla reiterated India's support for an Afghan-led, owned and controlled peace progress. India's ambassador to Qatar, P. Kumaran, is slated to attend the ceremony where the US and the Taliban will strike this peace deal. And now joining us is our principal diplomatic correspondent, Siddhant Sibal, who will give us some more information. Siddhant, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has written a letter to Ashraf Ghani, the Afghan president, extending an invitation for him to visit India and even congratulating him on winning the elections. So what message does this send about India's roles in these peace talks?
Well, a huge message and, of course, an acknowledgement as well about India's role by the fact that the Qatari government has invited India to witness the signing ceremony that will take place in Doha later today. But a historic development, huge ramifications, especially for New Delhi. We know that New Delhi has been playing an important role when it comes to development of Afghanistan. In the aftermath of the American invasion in 2001, India has become the largest donor of Afghanistan Afghanistan in the region, and a major capacity builder in Afghanistan, training a lot of Afghans here in Delhi and of course in Afghanistan as well, but also an infrastructure provider. We know that India has built major infrastructure projects and also a lot of community projects in Afghanistan. But the fact that the Indian Foreign Secretary was in Kabul shows that India is keen to play a major role. The Indian Foreign Secretary met the President of Afghanistan, the Vice President of Afghanistan, the Foreign Minister, the NSA and other leaders as well. And we know that India has been engaging with the Americans as well regarding the Afghan peace process. The US President Donald Trump was in New Delhi last week. This was one of the top things that was discussed between the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the US President Donald Trump, the drawdown of troops. We know that this deal could pave way for the Americans to leave Afghanistan after 19 years. That is something that can create a security vacuum in the country, something that Pakistan would be keen to exploit. We know when in 90s Taliban was there in Kabul, Pakistan enjoyed a huge influence there, and it has been the policy of the government in Islamabad to use strategic influence and of course have a bleeding India, and India has conveyed all these things to the Americans, telling them any deal which they have with the Taliban and of course with the government also, it should not lead to formation of terrorist groups or terrorist camps in Afghanistan backed by Pakistan, which might be used against India. And the gains of last 19 years should not be lost, the 19 years of democratic gains. So these are the concerns of New Delhi. Of course, there are anxieties here in New Delhi regarding Taliban, because India's policy when it comes to Taliban is clear that we will not talk to Taliban. But Taliban coming back, so New Delhi might have to change its policy when it comes to Taliban, and it understands that Taliban could play a role in the government also.
Right. Siddhant, thank you for those insights. And now we are joined by our Kabul correspondent, Mustafa Kazmi, who's joining us live for more. Mustafa, sources tell us that a 6-member delegation from the Afghan government will be there in Doha, but in a sort of restricted role. So can you tell us more about this?
Hi, Priyanka. Yes, the 6-member delegation from the Afghan government is already present in Doha, but it is until now unclear who is behind the invitation of this 6-member delegation. Is it the U.S. government or is it the Qatari government at the local level? We are also hearing solid, but from government it is unconfirmed, that this 6-member delegation is not authorized to sign or negotiate anything on behalf of Afghan government with the Taliban or any other party present at the peace deal signing ceremony. Having said that, it makes us slightly move towards the idea that they are probably, or most probably, they're present at the signing ceremony to open the window for the upcoming intra-Afghan talks in Kabul, as they are told strictly to avoid any conversations that would look like a negotiation. They're only there to shake a few hands and open the way for upcoming talks in Kabul between the Afghans.
The question is that we know that Zalmay Khalilzad, the chief American negotiator, has been trying to keep peace between these two opposing political factions in Afghanistan in the last week. Has his involvement helped in any which way?
It has helped, but Afghan government has, over the course of last 4 weeks and 5 weeks, they have kept on insisting their stable stance, that they would do anything, as they have used the lines before as well, to not harm the peace process. And on the other side, the indications of Mr. Khalilzad's insisting on signing the ceremony untouched and without any risk, which would tell us that definitely this is the idea why the Afghan 6-member representative has been told not to do anything, not to speak to anybody, or not to sign anything on behalf of the Afghan government with anybody.
So Anas, our Pakistan bureau chief, is still with us. Anas, I have another question for you since you're on the ground. Tell us, have you had any conversations with the media present there, the representatives present there? What are their expectations from this historic peace deal that is scheduled to take place in a few hours?
Well, there are about 300 plus media representatives from all across the world, and mostly being Afghan and American media that I've met, and all of them are overwhelmed because these are those journalists, senior journalists, who've been covering the Afghan war from 2001 and onwards. I had a word with Lise Sousley from BBC as well. She was also overwhelmed, and she, to quote her, she said that it was too good to be true, given that she's seen the conditions of the war-torn Afghanistan. We happen to have spoken to Afghan journalists as well. They say that if at all this is implemented, then and if at all peace comes back to Afghanistan, then it wouldn't be anything better than, because they have suffered, their generations have suffered due to this instability in Afghanistan by and large. But taking what Mustafa was saying about the 6-member delegation of the Afghan side, it has been here in Doha since day before. It arrived day before yesterday, and it has very much been in this hotel, but have not interacted at large by and large. What I've also picked up from the Taliban sources is that at the military level, the commanders of the Ghani government and the Taliban militia, they are talking in order to prolong this reduction in violence, this period of reduction in violence that ended last night. They are in talks, though there have been some rifts. In principle, this is what the Taliban are claiming, that they would not want to quote-unquote negotiate with the Ghani government on the release of the prisoners, because they say that it is in contrary to their principal stance of a Ghani government with being quote-unquote a puppet regime. But having said that, all the whole sole focus today would be on signing of the agreement. What we've been told is that the copy of the agreement will be distributed among the media personnel once, as and when it's signed. This would be immediately after the signing. The signing ceremony is to last between 90 minutes to 2 hours. This is what we've been communicated officially. It starts in about 7 hours from now. It's currently 8:46 in Doha. It starts at about 3:30 p.m. Between 3:30 to 4 p.m. Doha time. So all eyes over here. And with regards to who else from would be part of that, 26 country representative, who else would be represented? Right. Because these are about what we've counted. These are about 18 names. There are another 8 to 9 names that are currently missing. Yes, Priyanka.
All right, Anas and Mustafa, thank you so much for joining us. And we'd just like to remind our viewers that we will be bringing you live coverage as these peace talks unfold in Doha. Our reporters are present there.